My father told me to call my grandfather while I was lying in the ICU. Instead, I reached out to a lawyer and filed a $65,000 lawsuit, which finally forced them to pay attention. When I was fighting for my life, they chose to have dinner at Rachel's place. 2 months later, I removed them from the $300,000 house I had purchased with my own earnings. Now, I'll explain how this all started. I'm 34 years old. My wife, Lily, and I reside in a Manhattan apartment, about a 15-minute subway ride from the financial district. I'm employed as a senior financial analyst at a prominent investment firm. Reflecting on my life, I've always considered myself lucky. At 18, I earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university. 4 years later, I graduated during a booming stock market. By 26, I had saved enough to buy my own apartment. At 30, I was promoted to a managerial role. From the outside, my life seemed stable and successful, and for the most part it was. I had a family, not perfect, but a place to return to for holidays like Christmas or Thanksgiving and occasional weekend gatherings. But everything shifted after an unexpected incident. I was in a sudden accident. Oddly, that accident introduced me to Lily, who is now my wife. It also gave me the clarity to see the truth and the courage to sever ties with Richard, Diane, and Rachel, once known to me as my father, mother, and younger sister. I had just left a board meeting and was driving back to my Manhattan apartment. I was on FDR Drive when a truck veered out of control from the opposite direction, crossing into my lane. I swerved sharply to the right to avoid a head-on crash. The collision was deafening, like a massive steel beam slamming into concrete. Though the airbags deployed, my head struck the side frame, and blood trickled from my forehead down my face. My vision blurred, and a high-pitched ringing filled my ears. Yet I remained conscious. The paramedics quickly secured my neck with a brace before placing me on a stretcher. On the way to the hospital, a young nurse kept checking on me, asking, "Do you know what day it is? Can you tell me your location? What's your full name?" I answered, though some questions required a moment's thought. My head felt heavy, as if weighed down by a boulder, and everything seemed to move in slow motion, shrouded in a thick haze. At Mount Sinai Hospital, Dr. Peterson, an older man with gray-flecked hair and a calm demeanor, examined me. After a preliminary neurological test, he ordered a CT scan. When he returned with the results, his tone was grave. "You've suffered a mild concussion, and your right shoulder is badly dislocated. Without immediate surgery, you risk permanent nerve damage." I nodded, signaling I understood. Moments later, he added, "Due to the head injury, your decision-making capacity is compromised. Per medical protocol, we need to confirm your ability to provide informed consent for anesthesia." His next words hit hard. I'd always prided myself on being in control, but now I was powerless. To help me understand, Dr. Peterson explained that I couldn't legally sign the surgical consent form myself. I needed my next of kin to approve the procedure. With my thoughts foggy and my shoulder throbbing, I had no choice. Reluctantly, I decided to contact the people I still called family. Despite the pain and blurred vision, I recalled my phone's passcode. Turning to the nurse nearby, I said, "My passcode is 102. Can you call my parents?" The nurse, Lily, nodded and unlocked my phone. Minutes later, she turned to me, her voice soft. I called the contacts labeled Dad and Mom, but no one picked up. I tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through my shoulder, forcing me back down. Unable to move, I asked Lily to send a text instead. She helped me compose a simple message to my father. "I was in an accident. I'm at Mount Sinai Hospital. Can you come?" Within 2 minutes, my phone buzzed. Lily answered with hope, but her expression fell as she read the reply. "They said they're heading to Rachel's for dinner." Hearing those words, I was speechless. My mind felt stuffed with wool, and a heavy emptiness settled in my chest. When Lily saw my silence, she offered to send another message. I agreed. She typed, "Dad, I need surgery. The hospital needs a family member's consent." The next 5 minutes were silent, save for the steady beep of the heart monitor and faint footsteps in the hallway. When the phone buzzed again, Lily read it immediately. After a stunned pause, she whispered, "Oh my God." Her tone told me something was wrong. I asked what it said. She hesitated before reading aloud, "Can't it wait? We're tied up right now. If it's urgent, call your grandfather." Lily looked at me with sorrow in her eyes. Inside, fury ignited like a spark on dry tinder. My head pounded, my heart raced, and my vision narrowed. The anger, combined with the head injury, overwhelmed me. My ears rang, and it felt like the air was being squeezed from my lungs. Then everything went dark. I don't recall what happened next. When I opened my eyes again, a familiar voice called my name. "Noah, can you hear me?" It was my grandfather, Henry. He had arrived and signed the consent form, and I was soon taken into surgery. The procedure went smoothly. When I woke in the recovery room, my grandfather was there, clutching a cold cup of coffee. Seeing me awake, he smiled and said, "You're okay now, Noah. The doctor says you're doing well." I gave a weak nod and thanked him. My shoulder was bandaged, and the medication eased the pounding in my head. But what comforted me most was knowing someone cared enough to be there. After asking about my condition, my grandfather grew quiet. He stared out the window, his eyes heavy with unspoken grief, as if revisiting old wounds. Moments later, he turned to me, his voice low. "Noah, not everyone who shares your blood is truly family." His words shattered something inside me, but they also voiced a truth I'd carried for years yet never dared to speak. They severed the last threads tying me to the idea of a loving family. I stayed in the hospital for 4 more days. During that time, my parents sent no messages or calls. No one appeared at my door. The phone remained silent, as if we had nothing left to say. Lily was the nurse assigned to my room during the day shift. Initially, I noticed her because she helped me contact my family. But over time, I saw she went beyond her duties. Each visit, she lingered, asking not just clinical questions, but personal ones like, "How are you holding up today?" Or, "Is there anything you need?" Her eyes held genuine warmth, unlike the detached professionalism of others. There was no pity or judgment in her gaze, only sincere care, recognizing that my pain came not just from injuries but from my family's indifference. When she noticed my grandfather's exhaustion from staying by my side, Lily offered to help, bringing him snacks or sitting with him after her shift. She'd say gently, "I'll keep an eye on Noah. Why don't you grab something from the cafeteria?" Each time, something in me softened. One day, I showed my grandfather the message my father sent. He read it, shook his head, and said nothing, but his eyes conveyed deep disappointment. Later, he whispered, "I called your parents and Rachel. I thought they didn't understand how serious this was." I felt a mix of shock and resignation. He continued, "I explained everything, but they just said, 'He's got doctors,' and hung up. No one asked about your pain or your room number." I could only nod, my throat tight with emotion. Then, to lift my spirits, he handed me a slip of paper with a phone number. With a playful glint, he said, "This is Lily's number. It took some effort to get it. You owe her dinner." I stared, surprised, but a warmth stirred inside me. Perhaps he saw something I hadn't yet admitted. That night, my grandfather rested, but I lay awake, lost in memories. Rachel, 2 years younger, was treated equally in our childhood, same gifts, same attention. My mother would say, "You're the older brother, but you're still my child, just like your sister." But everything changed when I was 8 and Rachel was 6. She developed a high fever and was rushed to the hospital, diagnosed with meningitis. Our world collapsed. My mother stayed by Rachel's side, sleeping in a hospital chair for 2 weeks. My father paused his work, his eyes red from sleepless nights. I saw him cry for the first time, a man I thought unbreakable. I understood Rachel needed them, and I was proud to handle things alone, getting to school and doing homework without burdening them. Neighbors called me mature. But after Rachel recovered, things didn't return to normal. She became the fragile center of our home. My mother panicked at every stumble, fearing she was still weak. When Rachel's grades slipped, my father said, "Don't push her. Her brain's still recovering." Rachel leaned into this role, learning to use their concern. If she didn't want chores, she'd say, "My head hurts." If she wanted something, she'd mention feeling tired. My parents always gave in. I don't think Rachel meant to manipulate them. She was just a child who read the room. But my parents' view of me shifted. If I asked for fairness, they called me heartless. If I pointed out favoritism, they labeled me selfish, saying, "Be grateful you didn't endure what your sister did." Watching Rachel receive endless affection, I sometimes wished I'd been the one in that hospital bed. Now my wish had come true, I was the one in the hospital, but my parents weren't by my side as they had been for Rachel. No one stayed up all night or cried in fear, just a cold message, "Can't it wait?" "We're busy." That's when I saw the truth. Being in a hospital doesn't earn love. Love must already exist, waiting to show itself. To understand why my father's message cut so deeply, I need to share what I sacrificed since I was 18. That year, my family faced financial ruin. My father, Richard Bennett, ran a small transport business in Queens, but a bad investment in a failed logistics venture left us $600,000 in debt. I remember him at the kitchen table, head in hands, holding a foreclosure notice, his voice breaking as he said, "We're moving to a rental. I'm sorry, kids." Losing the house wasn't the worst part. It was seeing my father, once so strong, broken. My mother worked double shifts at a cleaning company. My father applied for jobs, but his age and bankruptcy led to rejections. I vowed not to be a burden. After high school, I earned a full scholarship to Baruch College and worked part-time at a coffee shop, a bookstore, and tutoring math on weekends, 40 hours a week while maintaining a 3.8 GPA. Rachel didn't apply for scholarships or work. She attended a community college, relying on our parents for tuition, food, and clothes. Despite our tight finances, they supported her fully. I once suggested at dinner that Rachel get a part-time job. Before she could reply, my father interrupted. Rachel's health isn't fully stable after meningitis. We can't push her. Rachel gave a faint smile and said, I'll look into it, but never did. My parents kept excusing her. I never brought it up again. After graduating with a finance degree, I landed a job at Goldman Sachs with an $80,000 salary, a dream for most peers. I saved enough to buy a condo on the Lower East Side. I didn't boast to my family, just felt quiet pride. In November, my mother called, exhausted. Noah, the landlord, raised the rent to $2,000 a month. We can't afford it. My chest tightened. Despite their unfairness, they were my parents. I couldn't let them end up in a bad neighborhood. A week later, I used $300,000 of my savings to buy them a small house in Astoria, Queens, 1 bedroom with a tiny backyard, a safe place after years of struggle. When I handed over the keys, my mother hugged me, saying, Noah, I'm so proud of you. You're the best son. I smiled, thinking the hard years were worth it. But 3 weeks later, she called again, her tone hesitant. Noah, the house feels small. Could you get a bigger one so Rachel can live with us? She broke up with her boyfriend and needs family. I was stunned. Rachel had a full-time job at a graphic design firm and could afford her own place. I said calmly, Rachel can rent an apartment. She's an adult with income. My mother snapped. Rachel only makes $50,000, not like you. She's a girl and needs protection. My blood boiled. I replied, I bought that house for you and Dad, not as a shelter for Rachel. If you're unhappy, find another solution. After a pause, she said, Noah, when did you become so selfish? Family is about love and sharing. I realized my achievements only mattered if they served Rachel. I let them stay in the house until I lay in that hospital bed reading, Can't It Wait? We're busy. That's when I decided to reclaim what was mine. I visited Charles Harrison, a well-known Manhattan attorney in his early 40s with sharp eyes and salt and pepper hair. After hearing my story, he asked, Mr. Bennett, are you certain about this? It's a drastic step against your family. I gazed out at Madison Avenue, watching people rush by. An emptiness grew inside, as if I stood outside my own life. After a moment, I said, I'm sure. Proceed with the paperwork. A legal notice was sent to my parents' Astoria home, stating they had 30 days to vacate because the owner needed the property for personal use. They called relentlessly, sent texts I deleted unread, and even appeared at my Wall Street office, but security blocked them. My grandfather called, concerned. Noah, I know you're hurt, but can you reconsider? They're still your parents. I replied softly, Grandpa, you said not everyone who shares blood is family. I understand now. He sighed, I worry about you, but I thanked him and hung up, knowing I'd crossed a point of no return. After leaving the hospital, I called Lily using the number my grandfather gave me. Nervous for the first time asking a woman out, I invited her to dinner, not because I lacked experience, but because Lily was different. Our first date was at a cozy Greenwich Village bistro. I expected small talk, but Lily asked about my family, my feelings in the hospital, and thoughts I'd never shared. Her lack of judgment struck me. She listened without pity or shock, just empathy. We began seeing each other often, usually in the evenings. With each meeting, I discovered more about her. Lily, raised in Brooklyn as the youngest of 3 sisters, became a nurse because she cared about people, not due to family pressure. That explained her genuine kindness in the hospital. Our relationship grew quickly. Lily became the first person I wanted to share everything with, the first to value me for who I was, not what I could provide. Word spread in the Bennett family that I'd evicted my parents. They painted me as the ungrateful son who abandoned his aging parents. Aunt Carol, my mother's younger sister, called furious. Noah, what are you doing? Your mother's been crying for days. I felt weary. She hadn't asked what happened, just accused. I said coldly, do you know what my father did when I was in the hospital? After a pause, she replied, you can't throw your parents out. I realized explaining was futile. This is my decision, I said, hanging up. My cousin Tyler called next, hostile. What you did was messed up. No one in this family would do that. My hands shook with anger. "Don't call again," I said, hanging up. Relatives, family, friends, and strangers called to scold or reason with me. But I stood firm. 10 days after the eviction notice, a storm hit. My assistant, Megan, knocked on my office door, worried. "Mr. Bennett, check Facebook. There's a post about you." I opened the link Rachel sent. My heart stopped. Rachel had posted in a group called Family Drama with 4 photos, my parents packing, looking weary, a moving truck with boxes, my mother crying on the floor, and a photo of me from years ago. The caption read, "Noah Bennett kicked his elderly parents out of their home. The house they lived in for 2 years is now a weapon he's using to punish them. Money buys houses, not conscience." Comments flooded in. "Who does that to their parents? Ungrateful generation. Boycott him?" The post went viral with 5,000 shares in hours. Strangers sent hateful messages. The next morning, Mr. Whitmore, my division's managing director, called me in. "Noah, this is affecting the firm's reputation. Clients are calling, some refusing to work with us." My voice shook. "Are you firing me?" He sighed. "No, but take a paid leave until this settles." I understood the blow to my career. "I understand," I said, leaving. The HR email confirming my leave made me feel like a failure. I returned to Charles Harrison with a folder containing Rachel's post, the comments, and the HR email. He reviewed it and said, "Mr. Bennett, we have a strong case for a defamation lawsuit against Rachel for slander and damages to your reputation and finances." I hesitated. Rachel was my sister. But the memory of the hospital, the social media hate, and lost clients pushed me forward. "File the lawsuit," I said. I posted a screenshot of my father's text. "Can't it wait? We're busy." Below Rachel's post, sharing it on my profile and the family drama group. Opinions split. Some defended me. If his parents ignored him in the hospital, who can blame him? Others, especially when Rachel claimed the text was fake, called me a liar. I didn't care about their opinions anymore. After filing the lawsuit, I shared the court document online stating I wouldn't back down. My mother called, her voice shaky. "Noah, can we talk?" Her frail tone pierced me, but I replied coldly, "What do you want?" She pleaded, "Drop the lawsuit against Rachel." Anger flared. "Did you think about what her post did to my life?" I asked. Silence followed. Then tearfully she said, "She's your sister. Family shouldn't sue each other." The pain was sharp, but I said, "My family died a month ago. You all face the consequences now." I hung up, feeling no regret. On Saturday night, the doorbell rang at 8 p.m. I opened it to find Rachel, my mother, and father. Rachel spoke first, trembling. "Noah, I was wrong. Please drop the lawsuit." I looked at my parents, my father grayer and stooped, my mother thin and weary. Rachel sobbed, "I'll lose my job and my husband if you don't." Something stirred. She was my sister. But I remembered the hospital, the social media storm, my career's damage. "Do you remember no one visited me in the hospital?" I asked coldly. "Do you know what Dad's text felt like?" Rachel looked down. My parents stayed silent. My mother stepped forward, pleading, "Noah,